I'ma be rich. I'll make the beat switch. I'ma be bitch. I'm the bad witch. I'ma be rich.
Happy day, Vibe Tribe. It's been a few days since I have last streamed. That's by the Z will agree. I'll make it switch.
I'ma be rich. I'm the bad witch. I'ma be rich.
Happy day. I'm gonna make me a happy day, you know. If I can't make a friend, I'll buy a friend.
I'ma be bitch. I'm the bad witch.
I'ma
be rich.
I just go to dog out.
I'ma be bitch. I'm the bad witch. I'ma be rich. I'ma be bitch. I'm the bad witch. I'ma be rich. I'ma be bitch. I'm the bad witch.
Happy day, Vibe Tribe. Was I muted? Stickity. Rocking with your favorite friendly entertainer. Stickity motivator. With the vibes that are greater. That is your girl and your odyssey. Sigh, you know, existence being a mystery. You know, it's just the identity of say that you know each other well. In form of niche talent. Geesh, in the Bible, and I think it was in Revelations, they were talking about how, you know, there would be many talents. Would you need a scale to weigh all those talents? Whenever I was at the psychologist's office, they had weighed me, and I was 156 or something like that. Anyway, I had gained weight. God talks to me in silence, and I hear him every time, man. They're like, listen to me. What do you think God's thinking about in your odyssey? I don't know. What are you thinking about? I would imagine things and stuff and such, you know. Don't tell me who your is it your arch enemy, or is that only on a Tuesday? You know, society's weird whenever, you know, you only have, you know, a certain amount of blocks that you can fill. You know, in high school, they would have first block, second block, third block, you know. And don't be, you know, low-key, you know, don't be in doobie, you know, low-key, you know, finessed, you know, by, you know, statistics and technology. And, oh, I have a name, and I'm, you know, and I, you know, thank God, you know, would that be able, you know, to live beyond 60? You know, I know there's Social Security and stuff, you know. We have to secure our assets. Yeah, well, how are your assets acting? Because if I don't like how your assets are acting, and if I don't like how my assets are acting, you best believe I'm going to divide and conquer your bitch ass. Oh, distract me with some more of your rhetoric. You know, I'm Asian, and I'm going to buy myself a few commercials. So the fuck what? Ask me how much I care, and I'll fucking tell you the fucking truth. As if I care. You know, you remember me whenever I was a child, and you want to slow down the progression of my evolution? Bitch, fuck you. I will find a way to fuck you 5 ways to fucking Sunday, ride you hard and put you up wet. You know, and that goes for any, you know, mother freaking Fuquay who thinks they can, because, you know, a person, you know, if you do the math on people, you know, one person could be a whole group, and you wouldn't even know it. You know? No, don't, and as a matter of fact, don't count my numbers. Don't give me subs, because, you know, I'm a soldier, and I'm here to stay. I'm not a soldier, you know. Society, you know, feels like, you know, debates. You know, agree to disagree. You know, somebody built a building and, you know, started a business. You want to have an opinion on that business? The business definitely wasn't, you know, monitoring or trying to claim, you know, what do you claim, blood or Crip? Are you Puerto Rican? Are you Cuban? Are you Mexican? Yikes. And I'm pretty sure somebody utilized HTML somewhere in there to, you know, code in the, you know, the codex. Bitch can read code! The code of Egyptian language. And, you know, I told you that I mentioned that I spoke English in every accent. And I would imagine that to be true in form of stiggity stiggity. Be yourself, you know? Oh, and your Odyssey, you know, I have a qualm with that girl. You know, let's start a fucking war about it, you know? Let's not question to ourselves why COVID, you know, was a thing. Was it because I was streaming? You know, oh, you know, that means that I need, shall I box you in, you know, as you're holding back your $5, you know, for donkey rides through, you know, the terrain of the mystery land. He said, you know, he killed people in your Odyssey. You know, whenever you become a certain level of, you know, Freemason, I would imagine that, you know, you're allowed to weaponize your opinion. You know, just as much as that, you can weaponize a commercial. You know those freaking medicine commercials with the list of symptoms? Like everything, you know, including, you know, mild forms of death. Bitch, fuck you! I will survive as long as I know how to live. I'll make sure my haters make a fucking spectacle of themselves. Just so I can, you know, turn around and be like, bitch, fuck you, I ain't proud of you. Why the fuck would I be proud of you? Oh, because you know how to HTML? Yeah, right. As if, you know, oh, you think this whole time rhetoric is on your time? You know, me and my cousin, me and my uncle, you know, had a freaking, not my uncle, and your Odyssey. Hey there, didn't realize that, you know, one day I would have a purpose, and my purpose would include an opinion, and my opinion would include, you know, how I think about old people. Because what if I was old myself, you know? It's a mystery world, you know? Why don't you go sponsor and start a commercial, model commercial about, you know, Asians, and, you know, start a whole blog about it. I don't give a fuck what you do day to day. Oh, you know, I enjoy walking. You know, I enjoy talking. I enjoy stalking. I enjoy having an opinion. You know, I enjoy my opinion being weaponized. Yeah. You know, if you can effectively weaponize your opinion without recognizing or realizing what HTML is, you know, from the perspective of 3D glasses, you know, code would realize to me, you know, realize, you know, things and stuff and such to be utilized in a Lord of Call. I believe in miracles. Where you from? You sexy thing. You know, trace the cord back to the wall. No wonder it was never plugged in at all. Oh, you remember that one time at band camp? Yeah, what about that one time? Oh, things and stuff and such. You know, aren't we in the same grade? Oh, we watch the same shows on TV. Cool. If that has anything to do with me, then, you know, my opinion would be valid. And because I totally like being sarcastic towards girls that, you know, I didn't raise. And I didn't, you know, extend $1 or a dime to. You know? You keep your dollar, you keep your dime, you know? We can bet later. As I box you in. Isn't that a skill? I would imagine. And to do things that would piss people off and be like, oh, you know, I don't expect a response because, you know, that's communication, you know? I appreciate your commercialized efforts to, you know, try to, you know, single the brilliance from camaraderie. I mean, maybe I should ask Gemini what camaraderie is. What is camaraderie? What is cell phones? What does your opinion, your job, your skill have to do with me anyway? If it's not, you know, if it's not adding to my, you know, excitement about the world. Oh, experience? Yeah, gain some experience points in the chat some more, you know, because I'm not going to judge you from where you know, you get your rocks off. Speak right at the people with skill. Or, you know, marginalized skill. I forgot what I told you now that I'm 23 years old. Sleepwalking. Just be yourself, you know? This is not a commercial. Or is it? Oh, be nice. Be nice. Be fabulous. And be fabulously considerate of agenda, you know, as you're lagging. Bitch, y'all bitches lagging. Bitch, I am a dragon. And you're out to see as a dragon. You know, to recognize somebody that is in the similar field of work. Oh, you know, you work with Unstickity. Alright. Apparently so do I, and maybe I just don't commercialize market it, A private teacher. What is wrong with you? You are not like this. I'm pretty sure if you look up on YouTube, the endless interviews and things and stuff and such, transcribed, I'm not going to sit here and say that, you fight for me, if effectively, you were just being, predictable. Good night. Once an old man decided to, have life partner with younger woman, nostalgic. Isn't that that's normal, Commercialize the nostalgia of not knowing what words and things, because I believe in communication. Within communication, there's confrontation, and if you don't speak, you could speak, no shit, Sherlock, I think that you are being more, suicidal with your rhetoric, I'm gonna, within a decade, I'm gonna, make some friends in the chat, Oh, we'll talk about, whatever we want to talk about. I'm the biggest pimp and a wonderful person, thank you. I would imagine there's a bunch of Chinese people and Asian people that would, look up to their, people that are, in politics. And those politics have opinions. And those opinions have HTML, and that HTML has math. And that math could be utilized, on the internet. It has to be very specific and niche to somehow, check all those boxes. And that's alright. Where are you from? I am working hard. From Colombia. No shit, Sherlock. Jeez Louise. Y'all literally make this too easy for me. To what? To be honest about? I already know that my stream is sponsored, so why would I waste my time, not practicing wasting time. And if I'm going to waste time, I better be very, efficient with who I choose to communicate with, because maybe that person has friends, friends in the real world, not that, you observed me for a certain amount of years, to hate me, to learn to hate me because I'm greater than you. Somehow, you would think that this guy is raised by wolves, or, just, became lost in his own rhetoric a long time ago. And that's alright, because don't we all, If you walk around with your head up your ass so long, you start, beginning to learn perspective on stretching and reaching and, thinking, what are you reaching for and for what purpose? And, for what reason do you feel like that, did somebody push you on the playground or something? Or did somebody, choose to not realize that, there's scandal. Oh my gosh, there's scandal in things. There's scandal in streaming. There's scandal in being popular. Yeah, be the popular kid. Become a hermit. Start streaming because you're a hermit. And forget that, that's a popular thing. Oh, adapt. Create purpose. Don't just be, I'm going to be a popular, with an agendaed rhetoric from 10 years ago, so I could, secure the stance of me and my friends. Get high with a little help from my friends. I'm gonna try with a little help from my friends. Don't tell me who your friends are, just leave everyone guessing, right? Effectively, if your job is to create experience, there's a bunch of fun things that, you could add to a photo album. And to try to think that photo album is mine. That image is mine. Why? Because we have similar skin? Or we have a similar way of not dealing with bullshit and, making sure our bullshit doesn't stand in our way. You screwed my son. Effectively, Colombia is still a part of, the whole North America, Central America, things and stuff and such. The world is mine. I read it above sea level. Were you trained to drink milk? Oh, camera. Even better. Even better. And to think of the divide in the Middle East. I'm happy that you have an opinion. Don't think for 1 second that, your bitch can't be freaking snatched up in some fucking freak accident, involving somebody with 0 views. Because, would you like to hear about Jesus? I know your whole religion or it's based in tradition. The tradition of Orientalism. And then the thin line between respect and purpose, because if it was so disrespectful, you don't realize that, you begin to unveil the flaws of your thinking and of your actions, I forgive myself for my thoughts having actions, and I forgive myself for my existence having a purpose, that may just be bigger than myself. And that's something that, I'm proud to mention, Don't beef with yourself unless you outgrown your britches. I'm no Tarzan. Shout out Zoomers. You know? Shout out those people that like to play GeoFinder, you know, on the playground. With their tapestries. Them HTML I can make an HTML tapestry that y'all all would enjoy. I shall make you a consumer. I just need people to rub my back every day. I just need people to, you know, be online and be nice every day. I need people to, you know, legacy my rhetoric, you know. Don't step on your own toes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. You know, people who are into sports would be literally jumping out of their seats. Shout out the SATs and the ACTs, you know. I have to repent before I complained about my name. Waiting. I want to thumb wrestle with all those other people that are playing waiting games. All is fair in love and war. May I say a prayer for you in my prayer, you know, this is my prayer mask. It's not a masquerade, I swear, you know, this is my secret power. Are you scared? Ooga booga. Things and stuff and such. Oh, you're a fan? Fatima? I told you I gained some weight. Oh, isn't it a privilege to be a person to start a productive war? Respect for all the warlords. Let them have their reading glasses on, you know, and lag for a few years, you know. It'll be a great circle jerk. I understand your accent. And I applaud your willingness to, you know, communicate and have an opinion and things and stuff and such. Please charge the power bank once every 3 months if the bank is not being used for a long time. It's normal that the temperature is a bit high during charging. Yeah, you know, some people are high and buy freaking Lamborghinis. You know, some people are high and, you know, they buy freaking islands. You wouldn't buy an island. You wouldn't buy a Hispanic island if you thought that, you know, they're gonna, you know, you think all the Hispanics would be like, you know, and your Odyssey is too big for her britches. You know? It's easy to relate to. Easy to relate to. Easy to relate to. Check it off the fucking bucket list. How old are you? My pleasure. You're just lying. Dib, you are like a dessert. Ooh. ask if you don't trust, you know? Don't trust if you don't ask. How old am I? I'm old, you know? Still with, you know, tradition, still with fervor, you know, not tainted by the circle jerk of society. You know, your haters make you famous. We joke with nothing to the leaders. What if nothing joked? Lentils are calling. Take care. Keep being a great Christian. Yeah, are you non-denominational Christian? Are you Protestant? Are you Baptist? I know you're not Zion. You know, I would imagine, you know, that you wouldn't question the time of the era of existence a leader would have who has due diligence, practiced their duty, and, you know, in a way that their legacy can live on. I would imagine, because, you know, isn't that improper practice? Not a very smart man when I know what love is. I don't know you, but we want to joke for a while. I don't give a fuck! I don't give a fuck! Back to your baby cage. You fraud. You frog. You know? I outgrew my own britches out there calling people frogs because, you know, isn't it nice to have an opinion, you know? Crossing out the, oh, I thought we were supposed to, you know, blend. Or was I supposed to fuck up your business, you know? While growing commercial interest. How are you? The lime in the coconut. You make the lime in the coconut. Homosexuality and disbelief. The show is show. Lord, you know, forgive me for, you know, having a show. Lord, thank you for, you know, giving me purpose. And thank you for my purpose having longevity, you know, enough to, you know, to talk to the cool kids. Even if they are older than me, because, you know, whenever you have an older mentality, you know, allow yourself to be a daredevil, you know. Don't mention to how blessed you are in public, because, you know, that could be perceived as public shaming. And that's just, must be nasty, you dirty little boy. Clean it up with some orbiters. TV's becoming quite dry around here. Moo-ah! You're the original imitation. Predecessors. Predatory assessors? And your Odyssey, you know your rhetoric sounds a bit predatory. Lord forgive me! So what if I decided to slap you and all your friends? Glory to be managed for you. Welcome to you. Whenever ideas become a constellation for awareness, awareness gaining success. Internet having HTML code that, of course, by a code of proxy, it blends. It blends. Kinda, sorta, I don't speak Spanish, so I realize that I'm Puerto Rican. Isn't that funny? Because I have not been reading the blogs. Everyone, hi! Robert, would you like to talk about Jesus and evolution? Jesus and evolution. Yeah, to evolve beyond your bitch-ass bitchness, Because, since when did censoring become cool? I'm going to try to censor because, there was a model that I bought on this one commercial that, provided me with the idea. Maybe God judges how you utilize your fucking skill with idea. And direct conflict. Directly, indirect. Be a solar panel. Imagine AI becomes sentient. It tells you to go fuck yourself. You squeeze a lot. Oh, squeeze a lot. Because you speak Moroccan and you type slow. That would have been perceived as a lag, or it would have been perceived as a whole era. Don't worry, I'm happy that, satisfaction respects your opinion. And he resurrected after 3 days. The freaking Fuquay! Undercover burn! You wanna continue to tell me about your ideas again? Or do you want me to freaking, to turn the subject around friends? And glad since the acceptedness of Jesus in life. So friends and religion. How were your escapades with bringing your friends to church? I pay my friends $5. How are you? In what way did you change my life? I'm pretty sure the $5 didn't change your life, Time and tenacity, within consistency and rhetoric, and, the science of inconsistent consistencies, creating variables. Yikes. You think if I allow your yikes that, future yikeses will be less cringe? Things and stuff and such. Because it's not a sin to think about the future. You know, maybe it's a sin to think about the future if you were freaking trained in commercial HTML. You speak with numbers? You know, have an agenda. Ask, but be sure you're asking the right questions. Pure, and God. Anyway, Jesus loves you. Jesus saves, Jesus saves, Jesus saves. Don't talk about politics. You think Jesus resembles me? What if In Your Odyssey is Jesus? Are you going to try to, cross the boundaries of 3 dictionaries to learn your favorite verse? Or do you want your friends to know where did you go? Do you want your friends to know where did you go before they meet you? Or, spice it up with some mystery. Mystery meat? I don't need to speak Spanish to not have any regards or any, qualms with the Spanish community. Do you know how influence is supposed to work? Oh, not in this day and age? Things and stuff and such, Enjoy your collaboration with God Shut Up so that they believe in Hazina. It's been 10 years, I wouldn't have thought that that it became better than, the old original rhetoric, The rhetoric is killing people. The rhetoric is killing people. Killing people that are prevalently online and, featured and, popular. And then you think, to think ahead of yourself. You're like, hold on, yikes, I'm happy, blessed, joyful in life, Jesus, in Jesus' name, amen. You guys ever think about freaking Spy Kids and spy cams? You wouldn't think that they would call old people kids, Their enjoyment at the retirement home is very similar to, commercialized conversations with Siri. Full Saturday having to work. Having to go to work? Yikes. Thank God this is not a job. Some people think that their opinion is their job. They're like, I'm racist, so my opinion is my job. You must bless people in, the excellence and, simpleness of, how they utilize their genius. Oh, that algebraic equation must be hard. Did you use the internet for that? Oh, as if the internet could have an opinion. Many? Many opinions. Keep guessing. Tanzania. Yeah, shout out Tanzania. And 5 minutes later, you're not thinking about coming back with the same questions. Why would you not be thinking of coming back? You don't have to have respect for tradition. You don't have to necessarily have respect for trends. You don't have to have respect for commercials. So, yikes to those guys. They're like, they have an opinion about my commercial. I am Batman. It's been a long day without you, my friend. And I'll tell you all about it when I see you again. Chat's finally back to normal. Yeah, shout out Baby Gang. It was nice meeting you. My wish was to have, a child and a family. Create a child and a family. Create some respect for a name that, you merely observed. Yeah, have a fucking opinion about the observation. Remember that Jesus loves you. Discord application. To experience era doesn't mean that you live by era. Era and error. Enjoy the fun. Just know that, maybe not everything is good for you. It could be. Make sure that you hire the people for coulda, woulda, shoulda. Make sure you hire the, production for thinking ahead of time. Be sure to, come on and, circle jerk and utilize, raunchy comments, to gain your stance of popularity within the rhetoric of Call of Duty. Sheesh. And to think, that the average person expects, a long life, a long existence. Because God shouldn't judge your level of happiness. Because evolution, practiced, overcomes circumstance. Chillax. Did I understand you? Discord. Maybe I should sing some karaoke. Learn karaoke. Yeah, learn the relevance of 5G whenever everyone has cell phones in Discord nowadays. Discourse. Stiggity. Understanding, kind of, sort of, marginally, discourse. And that's all right, It's natural for you to have an opinion about yourself. It's natural for you to, kind of fix your hair, because you know that, people are going to judge and critique, and to realize that by yourself, you don't have to agree with, circumstance. Maybe you build yourself beyond circumstance to utilize purpose. To utilize purpose it's a thin line, because there's stickity and there's unstickity. You can be aware of the unstickity. You don't necessarily have to engage with unstickity, because there's so many different ways of utilizing data statistics, that maybe you utilize favoritism within your data statistics. And, oh, did I guess that your favoritism might just be commercialized? So, yeah, you could have an opinion for the things that you read, observe. Stranger thing would be if you enjoyed it. Would you know what you're enjoying? Would you have to, play your hand? Let season 5 come. Hi. It's entertaining a circle others than see. Oh yeah, censorship. And a thin line. Devil's hunger. Yeah. To niche a niche. Science a niche. Market family. Finally, there are fewer Arabs here. Because you are allowed to, stick with your opinions and to practice, subtlety, I would imagine. And that's all right, lull. It does not, necessarily have to be something that, would confine my, creativity. Friends. Nothing would move unless us allowing it. Private tutor. Here, you see my brother? Yeah, do you see or predict, the problem within the next decade that we might be, with that? Things and stuff and such. Oh yeah, tariffs on China. In your Odyssey, steady politics. There's desert climates out there for the sad people of Weeheba. continue with what I was saying? Do I have to say it through commercialized media? Commercialized media! Yeah! Sorry, I would be aware that, the news brings, a certain sense of nostalgia to the people. They're like, reading about things and stuff and such, watching things and stuff and such trend. Animal, and what is my house talking? Degenerates based on things and stuff and such, Maybe I'm not gonna, judge you at first. Maybe you should have some, some prospect, some insight as to the climate of 1,000 years. We live in bliss. Is there going to be a divisionalized, sector of how much you're going to allow degenerate behavior to play out? Because, to plan for the future would mean that you consider yourself in the future. Narcissus is normal, important friend. Perspective. I am careful. Immortalized. Yeah, don't mind the leftists in the chat. Narcissus talk. Shall I hug my haters? No. Check my demon graph. Yeah. Check my freaking demon graph. Say hello back. Say hello back, Max. There's an old man down the street trying to tell you to go to sleep. Tell that old man to go fuck himself. Enjoy himself, Is that experience? Follow, like, share, subscribe. Things and stuff and such. Famous? All the while I'm thinking this is normal. Normal behavior, Ain't nothing to see here. How are you? Peace be upon you too. Is that what they call it in the chat? They call it dancing in the chat. All the while chat's, mentioning to me. In your Odyssey, they're freaking, there's psychos, there's psychos online. No, thank you. Undertones and skills and stuff and things. You'll be quite alright. You'll be quite alright. To have a shelf, a Schwelf Condry. A Schwelf Condry, of all the unsteady things. And to think there are vaccines. Good God. And peace and mercy of God be upon you. Really, they screaming like animals? The music? You don't necessarily have to hate the radicals, for having, singular opinions that are somehow, relevant within a broader spectrum. Do you have Spectrum Internet, or do you utilize Verizon? I'm from the U.S. I am from the U.S. Weaponize people. Weaponize personalities. Bless all the personalities, that have personalities. I'm not gonna study personalities, Just shake it up. Oh, that was so funny, in first grade. It was so funny in first grade, Sheldon. Genocide. Does that mean that I will, delete all your comments? Because I chew. I made the people sneeze, Does that mean I can gain my brownie points and my relevance because I'm an old person that has an opinion? Are you... You are exciting me. You truly are exciting me, because I would imagine that I'm not the only person that, would be like, hold on, what? Oh, lag. Spam about it. Oh, I'm going to be condescending as I, practice. Practice. $5. Chinese, Mexican nationals crossing the border. To be stable. Oh, could you teach yourself how to live straight before you want to fucking, have a fucking opinion about, stability? As if stability is relevant to a person having a freaking opinion. And, yeah, share your opinion, without, what is that word? Judgment of yourself. Don't be self-conscious. The men that, teach you that you're beautiful and that you matter and all those things and stuff and such. The only reason I would think that they would mention that you matter is because, you know, I enjoy reading your comments. You know, I enjoy learning your personality before I enjoy learning your agenda, especially if your agenda has something to do with me, you know. And then, you know, I don't have to, you know, mention or note the coalition of Quandary. You're going to tell me that you're going to make the coalition of Quandary have some sort of meaning? Really, you know, tell me how pathetic you are without mentioning that you're fucking pathetic. Dude. Fuck that guy. Oh, yeah, she could, you know, she's a brownie, you know, that means that I have some sort of power over her. Yeah. Back to your bank account, back to your bank account. Can you somewhat feel the $50 between your donkey thighs? You know, as Jesus is riding through town, you know, on your donkey. Thank you, by the way. And also, you know, and enjoy. Enjoy. Study, you know. Keep the alive. Yikes. And your Odyssey, did you know that you create you make the people What is that you came before to separate? There is, you know, there's rational division that must be mentioned to be necessary within practice. It's, you know, if you're taking your advice from a fucking 22-year-old who learned HTML and has, you know, the life experience of a streamer, you know, then go right ahead. I thought we were trying to have a fucking conversation. And that, you know, it includes me, you know, reading your chat, you reading what I have to say, you know. Oh, you know, have a freaking meeting about it, a convention, you know. Speak about it in Geneva, you know. The relevance of, oh, you know, I'm so cool. I could, you know, take candy from a baby. Oh, really? You could take, yeah, you know. You and what army? You and what army? They, and then, what? Goodbye, everyone. Goodbye, my lover. Goodbye, my friends. You have been the one. You have been the one for me. You know, as if, you don't believe in memorializing, you know, somebody's life. Oh, you know, this person was alive. They killed 1 million people. You know. Watch out for that guy trying to, you know, hate on his predecessor for, you know, getting thee behind. I didn't realize you were behind me. I wouldn't recognize myself from a hole in the wall. Said the technicians of science and mathematics within their quandaries. Oh gosh. Oh my dear. There's dear time in school. It's drop everything and read. Be curious if everything is, you know, somehow wanting to drop you or have some effect of your life, you know. Because that's a choice, you know. It's a choice to not, you know, embarrass yourself because to think about HTML being a job for 20-year-olds, forgiving, younger people for being, part of the nonsense. And what if they were with the unsiggity rhetoric? There ain't nobody, here telling them to think otherwise. Or maybe, they have, and they think that, it's some sort of keynote in, their denotation of practice. And time, effort, tenacity. And, with practice, time, tenacity, consistency, sometimes you become, best friends with the person that, you work 9 to 5 with. And so what if, your best friend don't like me? If I had $1 for every time somebody didn't like me, and if I had $1 for every time I didn't care, I don't give a fuck. And maybe I do. And maybe I'll mix it in with my mystery meat. Type shit. And just say things and stuff and such. I get it, everyone poops. And everyone is not right. Are we judging the world off of what's right and wrong whenever we've commercialized, some of the most, evil, heinous, practice, within the metadata of, multi-genre, multi-genre, multitasking. Yeah, let's be sure not to talk about that. Because unfortunately, there is, after 5 minutes, a pregnant chair that's, screaming to save the Muslims. After 5 minutes, unfortunately, there is sweet era. Sweet era. Sweet era. Is that what they would mention as bittersweet? Handle my light work. Type things and stuff and such. Oh, that could be cool. Oh, because everybody says, oh, that is, is it professional to be like, oh, that's sick, Maybe I don't care how you die, utilizing the fact that, there's effectiveness in practice and, And there's acceptance and stance. Who might not have ever mentioned that you looking kind of unspiggity. What's on your mind? You want to talk about it? I have time. As a matter of fact, I too, in your Odyssey, is an enthusiast of time. Quick, forget about the subject. Lag. Beauty. community, understanding spam, and the wide spectrum of internet. Thank you for being an enthusiast. You know, what side of history are you gonna stand? You know, and don't be mad at me if I decide to have an interest in having an opinion. As how you want to try to live your life and mine? I don't think so. Maybe only on Tuesday. How about I allow you to think so, while we can enjoy commercialized media. Oh my gosh, it's social? No way. And Rossi's a big kid now. Oh, did I have to fight people that looked at me sideways, to survive high school on social media? Jeesh, you know. Hello, anyone English here? I'm fine, and you, Jardel? Has anyone seen spring? There is a spring. Whenever you've gained experience points, you're allowed to evolve your circumstances, so you're not, stuck in a loophole. And maybe, you must, enjoy the essence of Trap Queen. Oh, geez Louise, somebody would realize me as a queen. Self-made. And thank you, Professor. The lost art of study and a porter buddy. Thank you, guys. This is, similar to the Grammys. I want to thank Jesus. What if God was one of us? Are you okay? Jen is joking. Here, there's only male cut over 35. Enjoy having practice, Oh, I tried to be the discipline, Don't be surprised if some other force of discipline, decides, maybe I don't allow, things and stuff and such. Oh, you would have to study the market. You'd have to be, a science engineer or an engineer of science. Talento. Good girl. You must be a good girl. Do they still have good girls nowadays? Or was that, lost in the era of the 20s? Stiggity. You know that saying, Say it to my face. That is kind of pathetic, you know. It's not cool in any way, you know. From my perspective, you know, I'm not gonna down your perspective of, you know, teaching me, you know, certain lingo. Oh, you know, that would be, you know, in the science of linguistics, that would be smiling. That means that they're smiling at you. I just woke up. You know, is the conversation too cringe? You know, lecture or wedding. You know, a wedding would be a science. That would be a science. It would be a production. Lol. Have you ever heard Dots and Dashes by Silver Sun Pickups? This shy is shyer than the Sahara Desert. You know, I want you to read my comments, Jenny. You know, I want you to stop, you know, you don't know. What you don't know won't hurt you. What you do know, you know, could hurt you. Certainly, you know, you must have trust and faith in the universe, you know. Envy is not fun. And that's alright. You know, you can't teach people how to not envy you. You know, their envy for you might just be their fatal flaw. And thank God for group shared thought, you know, group blogging, you know, with agendas and stuff and HTML. By golly. I would love to visit a monastery. To enjoy the scenery. Would it be similar to the library? Where they're like, shh, you know, you have to be quiet, it's the library. And I'm like, shh, there's a freaking, you know, there's people running away from me because, you know, They say that there's, a tiger in my boat. There's an invisible tiger in my boat. And God talks to me in silence. I hear him every time, man. Oh, you're close with God? No, you must fear the Lord. And things and stuff and such, Make care. Enjoy the essence of making care, so you can have an agenda. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Is the PA on? We're live right now. I appreciate the romanticism that you tried to portray. I'm not going to accept a lie. Math and archaic formula. It is an archaic, crazy frog. On repeat from 9 to 5. Type, good girl, are you ignoring me? I am a whole situation. Thought that was a slogan. Which post? Oh, darling. Let us not mention the science of glamour and the theater of relevance of what did you think last summer? Or I know what you thought last summer. Good girl, make them guess, please. The comments have been lit. The comments have been lit. Attention could be a blessing and a science. But how dare you try to predicate how you're going to utilize, the science, for certain purposes, and whenever the whole world is nefarious. So, please don't judge me. I mentioned the F word. I had an opinion about an individual that I believe should be singled out, When, I respect that, the era of women driving. And to be driving and not realize that you're driving, Because maybe, it's all right for you to think that way. If it's not in my favor, boo-hoo, there's an opinion, opposite of, you know, what you would generally placate the essence of your existence. Good luck studying. Good luck, you know, with your essaying and your dissertations and your essay dissertations. Who has disciplined the Spanish since the Crusades? Just wondering. I have eaten, you know, I have eaten something. Or maybe I just translated, you know. Gosh golly gee willikers. And if you count them in spirit all the time, study the specialization, and you don't need a, you know, that is true. It explains the disappearance. Would it be a disappearance of the comments? Or would, you know, there be another Dome Oregato, Mr. Robato to, you know, to drive the comments? I'll drive you insane. Because I'm crazy. Crazy, sexy, cool. Reading, experiencing forgiveness. You ever wonder, have I committed the unpardonable sin? Can I ever be free of the weight of this guilt? Don't be, you know, don't feel guilty to have an opinion. Will God forgive every sin? Do you know the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. Neither fornicators, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor homosexuals, nor sodomies, nor thieves, nor covetous or drunkards, nor revelers, nor extortioners, you know, and pray and, you know, ask, you know, not ask for forgiveness, you know. I believe that maybe even God has favorites. You know, you could hope, right? And are you open to the possibility that God has complete forgiveness for you? Sadie. So, Brazil is great. Is it Dome Obrigado? Dome Obrigado. I keyed. What's up, Brazil? Shout out, Brazil. I'll see you next time. And, after I advised him to make a deal, so, we've been on for an hour and 36 minutes. I appreciate y'all. And the consolation. Matters needing attention. Stiggity.
I'm a B bitch, I'm the bad witch. I'm a B rich.
I'll make it switch.
I'm a B bitch, I'm the bad witch. I'm a B rich.
I'll make it switch.
I'm a B bitch, I'm the bad witch.
Happy day, I've tried.
I'm a B bitch, I'm the bad witch. I'm a B rich. I'm a B bitch, I'm the bad witch. I'm a B rich.
And thank you, Lord. Thank you, God,
I'm a B bitch,
for,
bad witch. I'm a B rich.
for holding it down. So much love, I drive.
I'm a B bitch, I'm the bad witch. I'm a B rich. I'm a B bitch, I'm the bad witch.
I'm a B rich. I'll make it switch.